why it's really important to have a plan. Have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about a permanent loss.
Really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and D-gentlemen of all ages. Welcome back to your Degen Roundtable Sunday news show, the flagship show, if you will. We're here to talk about everything going on in the world, not just in crypto, but in the world. We got the USA and the EU passing trade deals. We got some interesting stuff to talk about the charts. There's a lot of pulse chain news going on. Richard Hart is starting to tweet a lot more, but the biggest news of the week, unfortunately, Hulk Hogan and Ozzy Osbourne both passed away. So RIP to those. They were saying that it's a rough day to be a fan of 80s media right now. So there you go. Two of them gone in 1 week. It's rough. For anybody that's a fan of Asmongold out there, he also took a week break from streaming. And apparently whenever he takes a break from streaming, someone else dies. So he came back and everyone was like, it's your fault. Granted, it was joking, but at the same time, it was pretty funny. Outside of that, hello, everybody. I'm Zenith. I'm your host, a book advocate or connoisseur, if you will, along with one of my co-hosts, Will Stevenson, down below. And outside of that, we have what appears to be our pulse chain enthusiast of the evening, Brendan. But gentlemen, how are we doing? Will, what are you doing right now?
Life's good, broski. I'm driving down I-95 over in Florida, headed over to an amigo's house in Titusville, where I'll be hanging out for a little bit, and then I'm going to swing down to Miami at some point, say hi to Brendan when he's got some free time, and swing on over to Vero Beach and go see another Marine Corps friend of mine, and it's going to be a good time. I'm down in Florida for a little bit, so life is good. It's still sunny out here. I'm actually on the East Coast for an East Coast time stream, so I'm stoked, man. It's been great. Just left Dace's house earlier this morning, so just hanging with the degens lately. I'm doing good. What about you, Brendan? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I feel like so I was decided to pour a little bit of the Eagle Rare 10-year, and I feel like I need to pour a little bit out for the homies, for Hulk and for Ozzy. May God take their souls. Like, I'm not one that really gets broken up over celebrities dying, but these ones kind of hit me, especially like Hulk Hogan, like Ozzy, kind of already like I didn't know how he hung around so long to begin with. I expected him years ago, but Hulk Hogan, like that was a bit of a shock for me. And look, I want to say, I always hear people like bashing celebrities after they die. Oh, Hulk Hogan said a racist thing. Yes. And you should call him out for that. But he's also done a lot of really good things in his life. And if I was in a place of celebrity status, I wouldn't want people picking apart my poor choices. And so I think it's very easy for us to do that. Rather than just celebrate the people after they die. So I get it. No one's perfect. But I'd rather be positive about it whenever possible. So pour some out for the homies, Hulk. And I do have a story. I had a crazy dream. And actually, I'm going to wait to tell it because it's actually a bit of a long dream. But it actually involves Richard Hart. It is a Richard Hart dream. So stick around. I'm going to tell that a little bit later.
Well, sir, you, like many other women pining after a man in a club, have had dreams about Richard Hart lately. So there you go.
This one's not what you think. This one's not what you think. It's actually hilarious and has a really funny ending, too.
Oh, boy.
Okay, that's fair.
Whenever somebody starts off...
I'll give you the premise. Richard Hart invited both Brenda and I over to his house for an event. And that's how it starts.
Oh,
very nice,
boy.
Very nice. I will say, Brendan, I'm joining you tonight. We got one for the homies. Unfortunately, this is the only whiskey I have in the house right now.
That's what I drink the most of. I love Jameson. Like, that's my sipping whiskey.
So for me, it's Woodford Reserve.
So yeah, you're more of a bourbon guy, more of an Irish whiskey guy. But so this glass, as you can see, it kind of looks like a little crater. It actually freezes, so it doesn't water down the whiskey, but it does chill it off. So Brenda got me these. Are pretty cool. They freeze up in the freezer, and then you just pour some whiskey in them.
This is actually pretty good sipping whiskey. Damn.
It's really good sipping whiskey. It's what I drink.
What am I doing? I just know girls that are just like, oh yeah, picklebacks, get the Jameson. And I'm like, all right, here we go again.
Which I'm perfectly fine with too, but Jameson's literally my go-to cheap whiskey. I like Tullamore too. I think they're both very good. Slightly different flavors depending on what you're interested in. But yeah, Jameson's, no joke for the price. It's good whiskey.
Very true. Alrighty. Well, with that being said, we have one final thing to get to before we get into all the juicy bits. Mr. Will Stevenson, thank you very much.
It's time for chat motherfucking shout-outs, ladies and germs. Get your hands together, put those comments in, and we'll be sure to shout them on out here on the show.
Very nice, very nice. Yes, up first, he has been the DJ, the first DJ of the evening for a long time right now. I don't know where 54 Cent is at, but our boy has been dethroned. It's none other than Mr. Slide 180. He says Bitcoin is carrying me right now. Even laughing in the cheers. So it's like, there you go, sir.
It depends on when I've noticed it depends on when we post the YouTube. If we post the YouTube in the afternoon, then 54 Cent is generally first. If we wait until later when he's working out in the in the garden or his farm, then usually he is not first. And Josh has been doing a great job. So Slide 180, it was good to meet you the other day for a brief second on stream.
It was a pleasure having you and Will joining us from the bar. I know Will and I have bounced around crazy ideas of trying to live stream from various establishments before. So he was the first one to do it, I think. So well done, sir.
Excellent work, Josh.
Alrighty, Mr. Frank White coming in with the Bang Bang DGen gang. Good to see you, sir, as always. Interesting. He has the one of the monkey NFTs for his pictures. I know the CryptoPunks have been getting a lot of traction lately. I, for one, still am of the belief that NFTs are dead this cycle. They might have like a week or two when everything's just going like stupid crazy, and then there's finally the first what is it, Bored Apes Yacht Club yacht party that they've had in like 3 years effectively. So that's my take. But good seeing you, sir, Mr. Frank White.
Anymore, they can afford a party.
That's true. That's true. Mr. Brown, aka Farmer J, saying it's all going to zero. He has an opposite mindset, so no belief in the Bored Ape Yacht Club party. So that's where he's placing his bets. There you go. You probably start a poly market betting thing for it. Up next, Mr. Amber Simon saying hello. Hello to you as well. Great having you as always. Happy Sunday to everybody out there. Oh, Farmer J coming back in here. He says the Hulkster was my favorite racist wrestler. I don't know about that one, brother. You're really gonna put that? You're gonna put that on his name, brother?
Top 5 wrestlers of all time: Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and Terry. What was his original name? Terry. What?
Terry Crews.
Terry Crews.
Terry Schiavo.
I'm gonna say Macho Man Randy Savage has got to be in there.
Andre the Giant.
Andre, yeah.
Hulk Hogan was the only one to ever pick up Andre the Giant, I believe.
There you go.
He body slammed
pick up. All right. We also got Taylor coming in here saying with the Shaka and the skateboard, hopefully you're cruising, my man. Don't hit a crack. I've done that many times in my life before, and they usually end up with my knees bleeding a lot. So for that much. Frank White, he's just saying he likes the picture. And Brown, what are you gonna do when the Hexicans run wild on you, brother?
I love it. What are you gonna do?
Fantastic. Alrighty, well, that is about it for the old chat shoutouts, but we do have to get to the good stuff. There has been a lot of memes lately going on with the old passing of the Titans, if you will. We got the boys going into heaven. Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan, tough week to be white in your 50s and forklift certified. One of my personal favorites, though, was this one. Ozzy Osbourne in heaven right now after surviving decades of abusing every drug on earth and seeing all the rappers who OD'd in their 20s and 40s saying, it smells like a bitch in here. Yes. But more importantly, though, People have definitely capitalized on this, as they always do with the old meme coins. Hulk Hogan and Aussie meme coins soar after generational icons pass away. I'm not gonna lie, I like this one. This is a good one, Lil here. A little candlelight tribute.
Mm-hmm.
Meme coins inspired by paying tribute to the wrestlers and the Black Sabbath frontman have soared, skyrocketed after tributes to their deaths flooded the internet. Hogan was pronounced dead in a hospital on Thursday, and Hogan's death comes only days after Ozzy Osbourne, frontman again for the legendary metal band Black Sabbath, passed away at the age of 76. Not bad, sir. Hulk Hogan was easily the most famous wrestler in the WWF, now WWE, during the 80s and 90s. Career spanned decades, where he wowed audiences in the ring. The crypto industry paid tribute to the legends in its own unique way. A wrapped Ethereum token called Hulkmania rose a staggering 122,000%, trading at its peak at around a tenth of a penny. And according to data from Dex Tools, the meme coin was created only hours before. Meanwhile, other meme coins like Ozzy Osbourne's name have also popped up. One called the Madman Ozzy pumped over 16,800% to trade around a third of a penny, reaching a market cap of nearly $4 million. Ozzy's passing has also created a furor in the NFT market as fans rush to get their hands on his official Crypto Bats collection. So there you go. Maybe I was wrong. NFTs, Ozzy Osbourne's doing his work from beyond the grave, pumping it. But there you go. Yeah,
Crypto bats.
I will say this is a bit of a lesson, if you will, which is that when it comes to the meme coins, this is what the charts usually look like. Yeah, there's a whole lot of nothing. And this is also after initial pumps, some dumps, more pumps and dumps. But you do just get those God candles that just pump up to the moon. This one was about 6,000x. I believe this is an older token on Solana. But again, after that, it does what you expect it to. And now we have dropped about 93% again. Same thing with the Ozzy Osbourne ones. Again, here you go. Big pump, and we dump. Another one, big pump, and we dump. The notable thing about this one is that you might notice this number over here, which is market cap and liquidity. There's about $7,000 in liquidity and a market cap of 4.1K, which doesn't make sense.
Wrong.
But again, they're meme coins, so it doesn't have to make sense. Additionally, if we want to go back over to good old Hulky, this one at least has a little bit more with 124,000 market cap and 85K in liquidity. So, if we're doing the stonks, I'd say the Hulkmania token at least has better fundamentals from the market and liquidity, if you will.
Well, I like this chart because I think that's what the Hex and Pulse chain charts are going to look like sometime in the future.
I would agree. I think there is a very real possibility on that. You want to get to that one next? We can talk about that right away.
I mean, I was just throwing out there, Hopium. I don't care what we cover first or last.
All right, we'll cover that later in the stream. We'll get to, if we're already doing charts, I did have a small request along the way. So it actually came from our good friend Crypto Boogie. And
what's up, Boogie?
Yes, here we go. Alrighty. Got your Bitcoin chart here. So, Crypto Boogie asked me earlier this week, he said, hey man, what's your 60-day cycle count at? I have it we are currently on day 36 as of ticking over the start of the show. Bitcoin's currently at 119,000. We did have a potential cycle high here at, day 22, right around 123,000. Since then, it's been relatively stable, really hasn't dropped below this 116,000 level. There were 2 wicks that went below it, but outside of that though, this looks like a very, very healthy consolidation period for me, especially considering we just got this last daily candle. This is honestly a big indicator for me. I know it's a candle that looks very mediocre, but what it did, it actually eliminated this trend line that was going on here. It's a bit of a flag, if you will, which is that the consolidation phase was trending downwards after hitting that high. But what this does is it actually takes us back above that. And it shows that we are trying to stay above the 20-day moving average there. So the big counts right now that are going on is that you have people looking at these 2 candles right here. So because of that, you're either saying that we are on day 53 of a cycle with a cycle high at day 39, which for a right translated cycle where you have the high afterwards, which is a very bullish cycle, that makes sense. As far as me, though, I'm keeping it here at my day 36. The reason that I'm doing that is for a couple of things. Number one is that this candle right here on the 5th of, or the, excuse me, this one, the 22nd of June. This is really the big question mark for me. The question mark here is this the new cycle, or is this potentially an irregularity in an existing cycle? The reason that I say it's a new cycle is that because we've been seeing too many of these lately, in my personal opinion, to have these incorporated into the normal rule set. I'm trying to be principled with this and stick to my rules, which is that I measure cycle low to cycle low. This appears to be the cycle low. As I also get indicators such as my RSI. This is where it's been lower than any other point previously. And if you also want to draw some comparisons, if I go over to the Ethereum chart, it also matches up nicely, which is that Ethereum also had that low on the 22nd of June. If we want to actually look at what caused that candle to happen, then if you go ask our good old friend ChatGPT, the things that were happening that day is that we had GDP numbers saying that there might be a potential 0.5 contraction for Q2. This is a correction or an update to previously posted GDP numbers. And then also at this time, there were still a lot of fears surrounding military strikes with Iran. With that being said, I still believe that this cycle count makes the most sense for me. And the reason that I say that, again, is because I measure cycle low to cycle low, and it appears that we have this 22-day cycle high, and I believe that this cycle high will be taken again sometime in the next week or two. We are already at day 36, meaning that realistically, we only got like 24 more days in the cycle. It could be a shorter cycle. That's possible. But with a cycle high on day 22, that's one of the things that leads you to believe it could be a shorter cycle. Cycle high before the midpoint means typically a shorter cycle. Cycle high after the midpoint means longer cycle. So that's where I'm at on that one. The reason that I believe that we could be moving towards higher highs is because, again, that daily close that we just got means we're holding that 20-day moving average, meaning we still want to be moving in that upwards direction. Additionally, if we go down to the RSI, we spent a good bit of time in that overbought area, and we've come down since then. But this RSI right here, the one that printed about 3 days ago, actually was in the same area as previous RSIs that acted as resistance. So if this flips to support and we can start moving back towards the upside, that is an indicator that shows me that we are still moving in that bullish direction. Additionally, flipping over to the weekly, we just printed a green candle for the weekly on this one, which, in my opinion, that's good news because it shows that there's more momentum towards the upside. But again, if we look at RSI, we have on the weekly, we have not broken into the overbought territory, but instead we're actually closing in on that territory itself. Again, we have the RSI that had a previous resistance that appears to have been flipped into a support. And that gives me indicators as well that the market wants to move in that bullish direction. So there you go. That's the answer. I understand that I'm on a bit of an island out here. Right now, I want to say that Agent J, I was talking to him. He has us on the longer cycle with that cycle low on the 6th of June. I believe Charlie, Cultivate Crypto, also does as well. But the reason I'm taking the stance on this one is I'm trying to follow the rules, and this is what the rule set tells me to do. Again, if you have too many of these areas where you have failed cycles, that begins to break down the rules, because when you have failed cycles, that statistically should account in a perfect world for less than 2.5% of all your cycles. There you go.
Jaded put something in the chat, Zenith, regarding what his thoughts are of the count.
All right, let's hear me. Agent J says 2 consecutive failed cycles, low probability. 2 consecutive cycles that Bitcoin and Ethereum count disconnect, even lower probabilities. Let's not assume the low probability scenarios. I'm right there with you, sir. That's why I'm here. If I have misrepresented anything you have said, otherwise, please let me know. But right now, I think 36 is the primary count. I understand the appeal of the 53-day cycle count, or you could even call it a completed 50-day that we're moving into a new one. Because again, having the high on day 39, that makes sense if you go from that standpoint. But at the same time, though, I'm right there with you. I think 36 is the primary count. Those alternative counts are things to look out for, because again, it's a crystal ball. We're trying to read the tea leaves here. We don't have precise information until it happens and it gets confirmed, and that usually takes about 2 weeks to confirm that. Additionally, I guess a final point that I wanted to share when it comes to the TA stuff is an interesting metric that I've been seeing people pull up a lot more lately is the M2 money supply offset. So based on the research I've done, there's 2 ways that you can use the offset. You can either use it from the 78-day offset, or you can use it from the 113-day offset. So if we want to look at that, the correlation is that Bitcoin came up. Excuse me, I want to do this. Bitcoin has been largely following it. It's coming up. There's some lulls before a bit of another peak, another lull before it kind of goes off to the races. And if we want to go from the 113-day offset, then that gives us this image, which is somewhat similar as well, which is that we have the run up, bit of a pullback, and then it's off to the races there. Again, it depends on what you want to go for. Pull up my sources. Yeah, sure, I'll accept your cookies. Boo. Okay. Global M2 money supply and bullishness. The M2 guy on Twitter, that would be this man right here. He's talking about, this is back in April where they talked about using the 170 global offset for M.2. Rally could last 2 months. It's kind of what we've seen lately, actually. But again, the big thing for me on this one is the man actually verifies his data when it comes to multiple time sets. So if we look at the correlation for his 107-day offset, again, it's most correlated around the 1 year mark time frame and the 180-day time frame. Year and a half is also pretty good, but outside of that, 60-day is also very strong as well. But for the data that he ran at this time, 63, much less correlated. 2 years, much less correlated. 195 days, which is a custom count for him. I want to say it's about 3 years. It's much less correlated as well. Again, interesting. The Reddit bros are actually talking about 170K. Seems very plausible. Yeah, I wish 200K was in the cards, but 170K would be an impressive 10x from cycle bottom. Another person coming in saying 200K is totally possible. The only trading projecting 80 days in advance is that one. And then additionally, global M2 money supply. This one talks about the 78-day cycle or the 78-day offset as well. So it's an interesting data point to use when you want to talk about this stuff. But as it stands right now, I'm still saying that the 36-day cycle count is where we're at. And I think that this is a very healthy consolidation phase. Gentlemen, do you think I'm off my rocker, or does this make sense from your standpoint? You see Bitcoin moving up or down in the near future?
Up. I think we're going higher. My wife really wants to see 127. So I'd like, in the short term, I'd like to see a lot more than that in the long term. But yeah, no, I don't think the cycle's over by any means. I think we're going up. And I think we're probably going to go up higher during this 60-day cycle as well. I think it's going to be right translated. So.
Fair enough. Mr. Will Stevenson, I know your TA is famous. What would you say, sir?
I would say I can't hear him.
Hear him either, and that is A-okay.
Oh, there we go. I had a physically muted headset. I was gonna say I got no fucking clue, bro. Yeah, cycles and things. Hey, look, the number's either gonna go up or it's gonna go down. So there you guys go. That's the magical sauce at the end of the day. What are you gonna do in each of those scenarios? Are you ready to sell? Are you ready to hold? Are you just gonna run the whole thing on your emotion? Figure it the fuck out. There you go. That's what I got. As far as my TA goes, I do have a fantastic. So not only is this my chat shoutouts paper, but I also do a little bit of technical analysis on it as well. So I don't know if you guys can see that. Z, can you bring me up full screen here?
Sir.
Yep. So here we go. We've got the chart of the price over time. And as you guys can see, I'm totally paying attention to the chart and not the road that's right in front of me. But, we've got the dollar sign right here. We've got the time down there. As the time moves forward, the price goes up or it goes down, and then, moves on like that. So that's my thoughts on stuff as it's happening. As far as what's the price going to be, no clue. No fucking clue. But I do feel great. It is a pretty jovial time, and I think that's kind of what we're leaning to talk about today, is like all the great things happening both in our Pulse Chain ecosystem and in the Bitcoin world and in the Ethereum world. Like, things are just starting to feel real good right now. So that's my analysis.
I dig it. As far as my final point for TA here, if we want to get really deep in the weeds, pull in the old trend-based Fibonacci extension, our 0.5 and our 0.618 levels are, oh gosh, wrong icon. We're looking at 128,000 for the next target and a possible 132,000 for the next target above that. Based on all the macro news that we've been talking about for the last 3-4 weeks at this point, it seems that people are looking to put more money into the markets instead of taking profits. I think we're approaching that time. I try to say it every week now. Crypto is probably going to be getting stupid hot for the next 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 months if you really end up going into Q1 of 2026. But at the bare minimum, we probably got 2 full months of just mania coming up. And then after that, that's when everyone's trying to figure out, where's the top? Is this the top? Is this the top? that kind of stuff. So in my opinion, based on all the macro news, all the indicators that I talked about previously, I think that, yeah, we have a new cycle high coming up in the next week or two. And at that point, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like a cycle low forming sometime in mid-August. And that leads us into a pump into September, early October, and then another cycle low October-ish. And then at that point, that's the question for me. Was that the 4-year cycle top, or is the next one after that going to be the cycle top if you're going into more of an extended cycle on the 4-year basis? But yes, 60-day cycle, currently day 36, and I believe good things are coming.
It would be nice for us to hit 120 on stream. I think that would be a nice number to start seeing, because I think that pretty much tells us we're definitely going higher if we hit 120 again.
Yeah, I think there's a psychological effect to it.
Yeah,
it makes sense to me.
And it is interesting, right? We have a lot of people putting money in, and I think there's also, we've got more bullish news. I think the market's going to open really strong tomorrow, really strong tomorrow, with the news that the United States and the European Union struck a trade deal finally. I know we've talked about this on the show a fair amount of times. I was unsure if that was going to happen. I really thought that the EU and the United States were going to be in a standoff, and I was unsure if the deal was going to get done. And that was a little scary just from a macroeconomic standpoint. But getting a deal done is super bullish, and we might go through that a little bit later, because I do think it's important. And so, yeah, I think we're going to see a really good open on the S&P tomorrow.
I would say so as well. S&P 500 right now, by the way, is at all-time highs, currently sitting at 637. So Friday, yet another all-time high. Crazy to think that this has been one of the best recoveries, pretty similar to the COVID recovery. But after the old tariff debacle, the stock market has just rebounded with a vengeance. It's back to doing what it wants to do, which is going up and to the right.
Yeah. And I remember our president saying, hey, I think now's a pretty good time to buy. And boom, it's pretty much been nothing but up and to the right since then.
It's true. That's very true. Alrighty, tell you what, for the folks at home, Will is only here for a short time, but a good time tonight. So before he gets out of here, I do want to ensure that we hit something very important with him, which is talking about the old pulse chain. So you might have noticed that Richard Hart has been tweeting up a storm lately, whether it comes to his nice season's greetings, talking about how Hex 10,000x the last time in the first place. So what do you think it's going to do now? And additionally, I did a stream with RH Max and a handful of other friends. You can go catch the stream over on his channel. But we talked about this one right here. Richard Hart is actually starting a new mailing marketing campaign, and he's using some sort of portable electronic device and wanted everyone to guess what it was. He made a funny one, which he says, haha, I'm sending out mini tasers. But realistically, what we have kind of theorized is that it's probably going to be some sort of like digital greeting card thing that is going to have a QR code to go over to Pulse Chain and go claim your tokens that were part of the Ethereum fork and copy. So yes, everything that was on Ethereum as of, what was it, like April of 2023, all that stuff exists on Pulse Chain. It might not have the same use case, but those tokens do exist, and theoretically it is free money in one aspect. But the big one that I think we want to talk about tonight is this one. PulseChain.com actually got updated. You might have remembered that Pulse Chain actually went very decentralized for probably about 2 years there, which is that during the whole SEC debacle, Richard Hart was really making a point like, cool, I made the thing. It's out there. I'm not in control of it. The community's in the control of it, whether it's people running their own code, people literally being the entirety of the validators for it. Richard Hart did start off with a handful of validators, but after that, the community picked it up, and they are the ones that have been running with it. But yes, I will introduce you to the new and improved PulseChain.com. I got to say, it looks pretty sleek. We got our nice little logo at the top, all the price of the core tokens, and then even some instructions on how to get a wallet, how to buy Pulse, how to trade on the PulseX DeFi application, and then even some basic stuff here. And they have a shout out to OX Coast. And then outside of that, you can even check out the stats page. Very cool stats if you care about that stuff. And if you're also a developer, still got information for you there. Gentlemen,
can you read that first paragraph when you open it? And by the way, look at the background there. I think it looks super professional, for someone new coming there. I think it looks really nice, eye-catching. Overall, it's beautiful. I wish it launched this way, but I'm happy that it's happened. But I really like also what it says, right? So it's Pulse Chain, and then it says take advantage of your future. the faster, smarter, energy-efficient crypto network, decentralized, censorship-resistant, primed for growth. So short, sweet, to the point, and then it has, you know, some scrolling, changing words and sentences as well, which I think, honestly, looks great.
Yeah, if you're looking for polish, this is that polish. This is what looks clean, good, and not like a scam. I know people have talked in the past that the whole marketing strategy was try to use scam tactics to get people to make good decisions, like locking up money for delayed gratification and growth over the future. But this just looks clean to me.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a really nice update. It also has Liberty Swap .finance. Has a link to them. And, you know, a couple of the other onboarding options. So, yeah, great stuff. And also, by the way, one thing that I really liked, is can you scroll down a little bit, Zenith? It actually has, up just a tick more, just because I want to see the all-time low there. See how it says, most charts, you have like 1 year, 3 years, 3 months, 6 months, 1 day. It also has from all-time low, and that's what it defaults to. So when people get on it, it's going to see the all-time low and how far it's jumped from the bottom. So I think that's super cool, and I love that opportunity for marketing there too, because it's going to make the numbers look really nice.
Will, what you got?
I was going to say that, like, for the folks at home who haven't fucked around on Pulse Chain at all, if you guys are curious or interested in doing so, or you think you're going to be within the next 3 to 4 months, I would suggest learning about the on-ramps into Pulse Chain now and getting familiar with them now, so that way, if later the prices start doing crazy things, like if you're a person sitting on the sidelines and you haven't gone through this process yet, then perhaps just like take a gander, perhaps set up a MetaMask or go to 0x Coast and get yourself an account set up, so that way you can fiddle around with how, like, setting up the bank works, and you can practice, you know, moving around little pennies and nickels and dimes and stuff here and there. So that way, when it comes like crunch time, if you find yourself going like crazy ecstatic, like, I got to get money in now, you're not sitting there like fighting the tides of crazy high gas fees. You're not sitting there fighting the tides of trying to work and do something for the first time while you're under like emotional high or whatever the heck, like super duper stupid excitement, right? Go through this stuff now. The ideal time to have done this would have been in the bear market, or would have been while the prices are down, like for as many of these things existed. But like, I personally have not gone to Liberty Swap Finance, so I need to go check that out and see how I can get money into and out of Pulse Chain using Liberty Swap. I'm already pretty familiar with 0x Coast. I just actually used them to onboard not even a week ago. So I got some final little DCA cash in before this little pump happened. So like, go out and check out all those different little on-ramps. Go and take just a peek at this website. Take a look at it, because you're only going to be as good in an emergency as the worst time of all, like the sum of all your practices. Like what they say to sports ball players, or to guys that are like in the firearms industry, or people that work under pressure, is like, when it's time to perform, you're only going to perform as best as your worst practice. So make sure you get that practice in. Make sure you go through and you check out all these different on-ramps. You check out all the options and all the tools that are available to you for getting into Pulse Chain. Because I'll tell you what, it really sucks trying to on-ramp and off-ramp when you're also trying to catch crazy dips, or you're trying to sell crazy highs, and you're just like, get your ducks in a row now and get that muscle memory built up of how to run through these websites and how to click through the stuff, and like how to avoid getting scammed or make like crazy charge decisions. And that's all I got, gentlemen. Unfortunately, I have to bow out at this time. I'm almost at my friend's place, so I need to go ahead and do some prep stuff before I say hello. But it's been great to stream with you. For the folks at home who want to know where to find me, you guys can find all my socials at will.pls.fyi. Reminder that book club for next week is Outwitting Squirrels. And that's all I got. Mr. Zenith, Mr. Brendan, it's been real. It's been real fun. All the folks in the audience at home, love you all as well. We'll catch y'all later.
See you, brother. Safe travels.
Adios, big guy.
And then there were two.
And then there were two. The two remainders. By the way, the book club coming up this Friday is book club number 69. So I threw it to Will and I said, pick something that you think will be fun. So we picked up Outwitting Squirrels. I'm very excited about this one. it's a good break after we just spent about 50 hours covering basic economics and wealth of nations. The great irony is we went back through the chat and we discovered that Will was actually the one that recommended Wealth of Nations like 3 or 4 months ago. And then when he did, I also replied to that message and I said, "Are you trying to torture us or something?"
That's funny. I mean, look, you guys are doing a great job. Obviously, I have not participated in any book club streams. I do audiobooks here and there, but not had a lot of time for bookie books. But yeah, I think what you're doing is fantastic. And my guess is you guys are going to have a pretty fun show Friday.
Sounds good. I will say we did get shouted out by your friend Sami.
Yeah,
it was actually a shout out of a shout out, which was that Tam, good friend of ours, she shouted out just a bunch of people doing cool stuff and included the episode of Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. It was number 66, I want to say. So it only took us 66 episodes, but we finally got a shout out from Sami. So there you go.
I love it, and I did see that, by the way. It's good to see.
Definitely. Alrighty, sir. Let's get back to the old pulse chain talk because there has been some very interesting developments that I do want to talk about.
Yeah.
So, number one. Sorry, go for it.
Sorry, no, I did not mean to interrupt. Keep going.
All right. So, number one, you might notice at the end of these graphs, they have an interesting pattern to them, which is it's starting to go up and to the right again. And if we go over to our second favorite pulse chain website, that would be third favorite. Second favorite is Go Real DeFi, which is a tool built by RH Max to actually access all the applications. But you might notice over the last 24 hours, Hex has actually hit a penny, went up a whole 28%. Incentive token up double digits as well. PulseX double digits. Pulse Chain double digits. This might be a bit of a theme. If we flip over to the 7-day, again, we're up pretty big double digits on a lot of stuff. Hex has been the big winner though, up 60%. So let's go ahead and take a peek at what has been going on with these guys. Pulse Chain on the weekly looks like it is checking out this resistance level right around 4 zeros and a 43. So if you can push through that, that will be good news. Because again, this level, again, was support back here in January, flipped into resistance in May. And if we can push through it, we can hopefully flip it back into a support level. Pulse X, this one, a bit more of just consolidated movements. We're back in the zone, if you will. We've pushed through this resistance level that I had about 4 zeros and a 2.8. Back above that, this is on the weekly. And then incentive token. Incentive token looks like it's coming up to this resistance level here, right around $2.20 ish. But outside of that, though, the momentum is definitely going towards the upside. And then finally, big winner of the past little bit. Hex has had some nice, healthy green candles there, blasted right through the 1 penny resistance level, and it's looking going up to the 1.1 penny area. But outside of that, though, we are looking like we might be going back towards the upside on this one. The RSI is very much in that above 70 or the overbought area, if you will. So the more time that you can spend in this area, that is where you really see those parabolic gains going on. So again, this one's on the daily. So if we can actually see that start to translate and maybe carry on for a week, then we can get up here and start challenging that like 2.5 cent range. I think that would be phenomenal action going on. And if you've been paying attention to all the stuff going on lately, yeah, Richard Hart is back tweeting up a storm, talking crap about mainstream media, not informing people about what's in the Genius Act and all the other stuff. And then also, again, starting that marketing campaign coming up here probably within the next month or so.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to read one of his tweets, but it is great to see. And I think one of the best things is every time that we've had a pump that's tried to get Hex back to a penny, we've seen huge dumps. And this time I'm not seeing huge whales selling off large positions. And in fact, in Richard Hart's tweet, he mentioned that he's like, all of the paper hands, all the non-believers are out. So is it a coincidence that we're starting to see a pump and he's even, kind of calling it? I don't think Richard Hart makes calls to be wrong. Most of the time when he makes a call, he's right. Is he perfect? No, nobody is. But his calls are fantastic. And for him to make the call that he made today for Pulse Chain Hex and the ecosystem, like I haven't seen a more bullish tweet or anything more bullish coming from Richard Hart in years, maybe. It's been a long time. So I know the community is excited. I'm excited. Looking at my portfolio almost double in like a few days, and my pulse chain portfolio. Double in a few days. It's like, wow, that escalated quickly.
That is one of the very cool things about the pulse chain ecosystem is that does it correlate with the market pretty good at times? Yeah, it does. But then at other times, it absolutely has the ability to pump independently, as we've seen happen multiple times over the 2 year and 2 months lifespan of it. So yeah, it's good news to see from the investor standpoint because it shows that there's actual energy behind it and it can move when it wants to. But I believe you were talking about this tweet, the old season's greetings, if you will. I still don't understand what this is about, but that's not the important part. The important part is up here.
At first, though, like, look at the big white animal. Doesn't it kind of look like Gary Gensler's face a little bit?
I'm going to say it's a bit of a stretch.
I know it is. I know it is. I'm seeing what I want to see, but I see a little bit of deformed Gary Gensler there.
I think, is this trying to say they're trying to get the monkey off their back? Is that what's going on here?
I believe that's the case, yeah.
All right. By the way, Moonpill Rational Optics, good to see you, sir. Don't worry. I'll read it for you in its full glory here. From Richard Hart on, what was this, July 27th, right around noontime. So, crypto, what are you going to do when the mass marketing starts ripping faces off? People are going to hear about Pulse Chain, PulseX, and Hex, and pump.tires directly before they hear about anything else. They're going to hold something in their hands that works great and is impressive. Something they're not going to throw away. Hex did a 10,000x in price the first time while being murdered with the Deca millions in fees to Ethereum. Now, Pulse Chain exists, and when the Pulse goes up, Hex goes up. Pulse, PulseX, Hex, pump tires, they all reinforce each other. Coin burning everywhere you look. It's amazing. Dry powder ready to explode, the weak hands shaken out violently, amazing designs and reliability with years of track record. The match is nearly struck. Be ready for greatness, and haters, you might as well get your memes ready because you're going to be very butthurt.
Woo! Man, I'm getting the tingles. Getting a little goosebumps, man. It's I've read this a few times, and I don't know how you can't just be so bullish after reading this or hearing this. And I don't really have much to say about it other than Richard Hart's in it for glory. And if he says something, it's going to melt faces, I'm going to believe him because he's usually right on his calls. I also have been, buying coins in the bear market for 2 years, and for a long time I said, get Hex where you can under a cent, get it under half a cent when you can. I don't think many people listened, and I think they're going to be a little butthurt once they see what's going to happen. But I mean, obviously, you, myself, and a lot of people that watch our show have been accumulating far more than we could have ever imagined having from a token count, at least for me personally. Hex, Pulse Chain, PulseX, and Ink, and eHex too. I did throw a decent amount of money at eHex when it was at its lows. And you know what's funny is like eHex is only like 3x off its lows. It's not even like, I think the low was like 1/10 of a penny. It wicked down below that, but give or take around 1/10 of a penny. So like we haven't even gone anywhere yet. And because we've been able to accumulate so many coins, even a little pump like this feels really good.
Definitely. As far as everything goes, Pulse Chain is still very much down compared to the rest of the market and where everything should be at, if you want to use that very loaded should word. But as far as comparison to everything else, yeah, sure, it's been bleeding down to the right, but at the same time, so is Ethereum. Ethereum just made its comeback. Pulse Chain going to make a comeback? It's largely tied to Ethereum. So the fact that we've had a pretty good run in the same time that Ethereum has also had a pretty good run, again, it just goes to validate that Ethereum and Pulse Chain are largely tied together. Again, I'm going to keep saying it though, which is that Pulse Chain can pump independently, but getting that good priming from the Ethereum pump coming on, I think it's a good indicator of possible things to come.
Yeah, and it is hard to continue to feel good when you see whales sell. What's interesting to me is seeing whales sell at all-time lows. Like that's not normally what whales do, in my opinion. So I think there's something unique at play here, and maybe some market making, maybe some unique things. But I do know that there were some of these whales were whales that sold previously, so that's not uncommon. And when you see everything else pumping, you're like, why do I have my money in this ecosystem, right? Like I understand from some people, if you're not a true believer, you're going to try to go chase gains elsewhere. And maybe it was the wrong time to do that, but I do understand, people being fed up of red candles for 2 years. Like, I get it. It's not easy to sit there and watch every other ecosystem go. And I say every other ecosystem, like you said, most have not nearly pumped as much as we thought. But you look at Solana, you look at SUI, you look at XRP, right? You look at Bitcoin, you're like, shit, I could have had my money in there. And so, yeah, some people definitely were chasing green candles. So now flip that around. What happens when Pulse Chain starts to get those green candles? People are going to come chase those as well. So I'm excited. I'm also excited to see what these devices are. And I'm also wondering if I'm going to get one delivered to my house. Like, I'm hoping to get one. I want one. What is it?
Well, the unfortunate thing here is that if you have followed some of the marketing campaigns Richard Hart has done in the past, and if you've read Sci-Vive, he talks about this in there, which is that if you have a limited marketing ability or budget, if you will, and you only have so many marketing ads to send out, where are you going to get your most return from? Are you going to get your most return from trying to get 1,000 people to put $100 in? Or are you going to get your most return sending it to some of the wealthiest zip codes in the country and try to get one person to put $1 million in?
Yep. I'm not going to say I'm in the wealthiest of zip codes, but it's not an unwealthy zip code.
That's fair. I'll tell you this.
The problem is by the time he sends it to this house, I'm going to be moved, so it doesn't matter anyway.
That's right. You got to update your address for him. But outside of that, if you want some of the memorabilia, odds are we probably know a guy or two that can maybe get his hands on a few extra, and then we can have them just for the swag. Because honestly, I think it'd be pretty cool. Come on.
Well, think about it this, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna paint a picture here. We get a few of these devices. Pulse Chain, Hex, Pulse X Inc. melt faces, and Interpol notice goes away. Richard Hart's free to party, and we have a big Hexico Pulsekin meetup, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, and you bring that little device, and Richard Hart signs it with a silver Sharpie, and you say, you put that on your bookshelf forever in a glass case, and you say, that right there, my friends, is how I bought my time back. Like, it'd be so cool to have something like that.
That would be pretty banging. All right. I do see we do have a good comment here from our friend, Dr. H, the Cryptopractor. Yeah. Haven't seen you in a long time, my friend. Good to see you as always, though. He was saying big ratio moved in the last hours from 3.1 to 4.1. This is for eHex to pHex. So yes, let's go ahead and take a quick peek at that guy. So what we're looking here is Dex Screener. We have Hex from Ethereum compared to Hex. I have it inverted currently, meaning that the higher this goes, the more Hex on Pulse Chain is worth, and the lower it goes, it means the more that Hex on Ethereum is worth. You might notice that we are in a bit of a downtrend, but this could be the start of a correction there. Yes, you are entirely correct. That is a rather large move there, because we pretty much went from 0.3 to a little under 0.25. So yeah, it seems that a lot of the energy is on the Pulse Chain side of the house.
Yeah, and I talked about this a while back, but I had moved some eHex into pHex, about half of my eHex into pHex, because it's been trading at a pretty good range. That it's been pretty easy to trade and swing trade. So, like just before this, I traded most of that Hex back into eHex. So, I made a good chunk of coins on that swing trade, and now my decision. I'll keep watching the chart, but now my decision is, hey, do I want to put some of my Hex into eHex? Because usually 4 has been about what it's topped out at the last few times that it's got up there, the 4-to-1 ratio. So I've been kind of looking at that 4-to-1 to 3-to-1 or 4-to-1, 2.5-to-1. So it's almost feeling like it's maybe a time to switch a little Hex into eHex. Thing is, I like doing it the other direction more because I'm more of a believer on Hex. Like, I think it's going to be better. So if I'm moving eHex into Hex, I care less if it doesn't work, right? If I switch my Hex into eHex and then that gap just keeps widening, I'm not going to feel as good because I'm more bullish on Hex. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And I think you brought up a very good point there real quick, which is, I didn't mention it, but this is a critical level. And I say that because this is an inflection point or a resistance and support point, which is that in the past 3 times it's gotten to this level, it's gotten rejected. We've gotten to this level again. So the question is, where does it go from here?
Yep.
So if you're interested in the ratios, this is a critical moment for this one, because it's either going to reverse or it's going to continue the trend and go to the upside.
When was the last time it was over 4-to-1? Like actually stay? It was probably about 6 months ago, 5 months ago.
Back
something like
in late 2024, and then it broke down in February of 2025.
that. Yep. Okay. February 2025. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. So it's something to keep an eye on. I look, I don't think it's going to trade within that range forever, which is why I'm a little bit skeptical of trading my what I consider more premium asset, Hex, into eHex, because look, I still have a good bag of eHex. I still have eHex stakes that are laddered out. They're going to be coming to fruition, right? So I have more of that that's going to be coming back to me. And I mean, during the PulseX conference, I was on a debate panel debating what's going to do better from that moment, Hex or eHex, not from the lows, from that moment. And so far, that's right.
Hey, it must feel good, doesn't it?
It's short. It's short though. I'm not going to say I won until the bull market's over, but
that's true. We got a long ways to go.
We have one person on our team, Mr. Apex Hex. We know which way he runs. He thinks that Hex might get back to that 10-to-1 ratio at some point. He believes that.
I think it's entirely possible. The reason that I think I'm with you guys, which is that I think the pulse chain version of a Hex, colloquially known as just Hex at this point, is a better proposition than Hex from Ethereum, is that if you're in Hex for the use case, then the best use case is on pulse chain by far. And that's because one of the reasons why pulse chain was created is because Ethereum was having massive gas fee issues. And the way that Hex calculates the unstaking is that it has to run a gas calculation for every day it is staked. Pulse chain was designed to fix this issue. So if you're in it for that long-term use case function, then yeah, pulse chain is the home for it. I've talked with a handful of other folks. I want to say shout out to DIY Donovan. He's come on the channel before and he's a good friend. He's talking about right now that he sees Hex as a really good spot hold if you just want to try to trade it for the rest of the cycle. So if you're in that standpoint, then there's good opportunity, honestly, on both sides of the house. At that standpoint, though, you're probably looking more at Hex from Ethereum because, as we just saw on the ratio chart there, we're seeing that the Ethereum version is very undervalued compared to the Pulse Chain version. Both are still very undervalued compared to the rest of the market as a whole, especially considering that these are technically altcoins. And the way that we traditionally see the cycle flow goes, Bitcoin, L1s, Layer 2s, NFTs, or like meme coins and altcoins, and then NFTs if the market gets stupid hot. So there's, in my opinion, I think there's still a lot of time. I will say nothing you see here is financial advice, but just trying to aggregate all the different views and all the different data points and opinions I'm seeing out there. And I think there's use cases for both. If you're in the use case for Hex from the staking standpoint of trying to capture those T-shares, trying to get the gains over time, Pulse Chain's the home for it. If you're looking for spot trading over the next year or less, of 6 months or less, let's be real here, then I think that both of them are potential viable candidates.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I would also add, where is this marketing campaign going to drive people? It's certainly not driving them to Ethereum because we have an entire ecosystem that's built to be, work in tandem, in unison. And Richard Hart said that in the tweet today, right? Like pump.tires burns Pulse, and then it burns PulseX once a token gets high enough in market cap. Every transaction that goes through PulseX burns PulseX, right? And it's just this never-ending cycle of pushing each other up through buy and burns. And all the economic energy from marketing standpoint is going to push people to Pulse Chain, not Ethereum, because Pulse Chain is what Richard Hart created. Why would he send someone to a competing chain? Now, look, he's bullish on Ethereum. I'm bullish on Ethereum. You're bullish on Ethereum, although maybe less. I actually have a question to ask you after this, but that doesn't mean that I'm more bullish on Ethereum Hex, because everything that Richard Hart is doing is going to try to push people to Pulse Chain, because that is the ecosystem, right? That's what he's talking about. And not only that, but if he were to ever use monetary dry powder to put back into coins, again, it's going to be in the Pulse Chain side. It's not going to be on the Ethereum side. So why would I bet against Richard Hart when he's telling you with his actions and with his words that Pulse Chain is the place to be? Like, I'm in here because I trust Richard Hart and what he's built. Now, look, I know a lot of people are very bullish on the Ethereum X. And look, I am too. I still own a lot of it. But I'm much more bullish on Pulse Chain side Hex, which I believe is the true Hex now, because it's built. That ecosystem was literally built to make Hex better. There's no other way to say it. So Zenith, I think it was last week or the week before, you were saying like, oh, I'm a little down on Ethereum and I've lowered my.
It's been the last 4 weeks in a row, my friend.
I've been you're like I'm down a little bit on, and so I've lowered my targets. Have you changed? Are you back to your original targets, or
Nope.
how you feeling?
I think 9,000 is a reasonable target for the bull run. The reason that I say that is we're currently sitting at 3,800 right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if we go and we just barely kiss that all-time high before we have a bit of a retracement with that 60-day cycle that I talked about in the beginning. And then after that, again, the cycle's growing long. We're getting towards the top. So at that point, you have to ask yourself, all right, how many X's is Ethereum going to do from its current position? If you go for a 2X and you touch that all-time high point, that means that you're looking at about $8,200. If you want to get a little more aggressive, you could say that maybe a 3X that puts you at 12. But again, at this point, with how heavy Ethereum is getting, just from the amount of money that's gone into it, Ethereum is still, in my opinion, our number 2 blue chip token in existence. Number 1 is obviously Bitcoin. Number 2 is Ethereum. I'm very excited and curious to see what 3 and 4 are going to become. I think there's good contenders out there right now. But as far as those two, there's a lot of money that's flown into these. These are the only 2 with spot ETFs available at this time. And we're coming up, we've actually passed the 1-year mark for the Ethereum ETF as well. And we've seen massive flows into it. And we've only gotten the pump up to the current point. So yeah, my targets are still a little bit muted from what I was talking about probably like 2 years ago at this point, which is that previously I was saying that 12.5 is a very reasonable 50 percentile target. And that if you want to get crazy, you can talk about like 15 and maybe 18K. But as it stands right now, based on the action going on and what we saw play out over the last 2 years, largely did not go deflationary, had the L2 issues. A lot of other chains were just eating its lunch when it comes to attention and all the other stuff going on. So those are the things that I point to, which is like, yes, is Ethereum doing very well right now? Yes. And it makes me very happy because I have a largely Ethereum and ERC20 token backed portfolio because I try to have a less aggressive crypto management strategy myself. So I'm very happy with what's going on right now. At the same time, though, I'm not just going to just throw everything out the window and be like, nope, we're going to the moon. 25K Ethereum is happening this time. It's like, no, I think we're going to be happy if we see 5 digits. But even if we do, I think it's going to be low 5 digits. So that's maybe talking like 10K, like 11 at the very, very, very most in very aggressive scenarios.
So I have not changed my prediction for Ethereum from the bear market. Literally, I've said 9 to 12K from the beginning.
You have so much hope.
What's that?
Oh, you have so much hope.
Well, Zenith, I told you this a couple of weeks ago. I'm more bullish now in Ethereum than I ever have been in my life. So I wasn't as high as you and other people, DCC and Cultivate Crypto. Like I've never fully agreed with everybody. When I first got into crypto, my first full bull market, which was last cycle, everyone was talking about Ethereum going to be flipping Bitcoin maybe last cycle. And I was like, I just don't ever even see that happening, period. And so like, I've always kind of had this like maybe muted love for it. So like for me, I think 9 to 12 is great. It'll be fantastic, but it might just be because I wasn't as bullish as other people. So that's why I haven't changed my numbers. Now I'm more bullish. So I'm like, I'm really sticking to these. We'll see what happens, but I think that the Ethereum strategic reserve and getting these large institutions that are having a long-term outlook, buying Ethereum in large amounts. Like if Bitmine and SharpLink end up owning 10% of the entire supply, like that really changes what we were even looking at coming into this cycle, because we're looking at ETFs. I know we said, okay, some companies might hold ETH, but we really, I think, expected most to hold Bitcoin, which was the case. But now we're starting to see that paradigm shift a little bit. And so I do think that the institutional investors and corporate investors are really making a push in a way that that's setting Ethereum up for a huge run. And if you ask certain people, some people are saying that they think the Ethereum price is being suppressed so that certain people can accumulate more. And it's not us individuals.
Tracker and Dace.
Tracker, Dace, Johnny Chaos.
Yeah.
Because there's other people as well. Look, it's certainly possible. I don't know. I'm not going to say yes or no. Sure, maybe. I know you and I both know the games that are played in in the markets by large players. So it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, 9,000 to 12,000, I think still a very, very likely scenario for Ethereum. Man, what would that put the Pulse Chain SAC wallet at? Right? Like 100
Ridiculous.
Let me pull up the ETH Strategic Reserve website.
While you do that, I did happen to find a gentleman this week that did agree with you. If you may or may not have heard of Digital Galaxy, but this fine gentleman spent some time with CNBC, and let's see what he has to say.
What do you make of some of the other coins? So Ether, we just had somebody on this week putting together the equivalent of an Ether micro strategy of sorts in terms of a leveraged bet that other people are going to be able to buy into. Also, everything's getting tokenized. We've talked about stable coins. Right now, if you could buy Ether or Bitcoin, which do you buy?
You know, I own both. Listen, Ether's caught up a lot. It feels like if ETH takes out 4,000, it goes into price discovery. And so we feel kind of destined to at least knock on the 4,000 ceiling a few times. The narrative of Ether is really powerful, and the market was really short. And now we have not just, one, we have two major ETH treasury companies and another one coming, and they're raising capital every day and buying Ether. And so there's not a lot of supply of ETH. And so I think ETH probably has a chance to outperform Bitcoin in the next 3 to 6 months.
What do you make of some of the
Interesting?
other coins? So
3 to 6 months. What a timeline. It's almost like we may have mentioned that similar timeline on the show already.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, look, that's pretty much what I've been harping on now for months. And I actually do think that we broke the news here. I know you were moving and we're out of the country, but I broke the news on the ETH Strategic Reserve, Bitmine, and SharpLink before anyone else covered it. Like we had that first on our show, and for people that were watching then, ETH I think was at 2,800, and we were like ETH is rearing up, and now it's 1,000, up 1,000 since we started covering that. So I do think that we were ahead of the game, and I do think that our community benefited because of that, and I'm happy to see it. We're not always right. Sometimes we're laughably wrong, but it is nice to get a win once in a while.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of another win, I mean, you guys have been talking about the short selling pressure for a long time, and this fine gentleman right here just referenced the same thing. So you're not alone. Yeah,
and I also said a couple of weeks ago. Remember when people were talking about, okay, ETH went up, and now we're seeing record shorts, and I said, well, be careful to think that that's a negative thing. I said, be careful to think that that's a negative thing, because there is a spin that could say it's positive. Because what I was talking about was the ability to leverage your Ethereum, sell it, lend it, and make 13%. And so you short it on one side, and then you loan it and make 13%, and it's a wash. I'm like, man, but that's how the markets work, right? They find little loopholes to be able to make free money, and that's what they were doing. And it turns out, it seems pretty clear that that's what was happening. So no one was really that. I don't think certainly some people. I don't think as many people were bearish on ETH as the shorts made it look.
That's true. Tracker had a really good chart that he pulled up for it on the last Monday when we did Walk the Block. It was showing that the short selling pressure chart matches up like basically perfectly with the Ethereum price chart, which is that when you had maximum shorts, that was when we had our final dip down to about like below 2K for a week there or so. Mm-hmm. So look, it makes sense to me. This game is played at many, many levels. We play at a level. ETF folks played it at another entire level. They are in the stratosphere and we're on the ground. That, unfortunately, that's kind of the reality of TradFi versus retail. But at the same time, though, if you get enough people on the ground, you can have some really good effects and forces on the market. So I'm not going to sleep on it. But at the same time, though, I am absolutely looking towards some of the bigger players when it comes to what they're trying to do. And for the folks at home, the guy we just saw, that was Mike Novogratz, and he is the CEO of Galaxy Digital. So allegedly they do some AI stuff, but they also apparently do a good bit of crypto stuff as well. So digital assets and data center leader, 7 billion assets on platform, 1,300 institutional trading counterparties, making Galaxy one of the world's leading liquidity providers in the digital assets space. So overall, that's nothing to shake a stick at. Although I will say our good friend Agent J has some words for him though, saying, really, saying it's not a lot of ETH out there. It's still inflationary. Yes, that is correct. Ethereum is still inflationary.
That is accurate. I have a quick screen share just for the ETH Strategic Reserve website since we've been covering it so much.
Yes, sir.
This week, it passed for the first time the 2 million ETH in strategic reserves. So that's huge. I think I was not able to pull this up last time I tried because there's certain internet providers that are now blocking this website as a potential scam website. So that actually, I found out that was happening to me. And so I had to go into the settings and be like, okay, this website is approved. Like, don't block this website from me. So now I can get back on it on my Wi-Fi. But yeah, it was funny because once I turned my Wi-Fi off on my phone, I was like, wait, it's working again. Okay, it's my internet provider. So I spoke to the guy that was running the website. I was talking to him about it. He's like, yeah, there's potentially one, maybe two internet providers that are blocking the website, but there are big players already talking to those internet providers to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. So this is pretty cool. And so 2.32 million ETH, which is $9 billion. That's a little bit of money, AA. And then if you include the ETH ETF holdings, there's another 5.8 million ETH. So 22 billion there. So total, you're looking at about 32 billion between ETFs and strategic reserves. But last time I pulled this up, SharpLink Gaming was on top, but they aren't anymore. Bitmine made huge purchases this week, and they are now back in the top. So I feel like every week they are changing spots and who's the top. And did you see, Zenith, how much money SharpLink wants to invest in ETH? And did you see how much Bitmine is expecting to invest into ETH? Did you see their statements on that?
Last we talked about it, I think Bitmine said that they wanted to stake 5% of the total supply, and they announced a $1 billion investment. And then SharpLink Gaming pulled the classic hold my beer and said, we're going to invest $6 billion into Ethereum to hold and stake.
Yeah.
Do we have updated figures on that, or is that it?
So pretty close. So SharpLink first had on their original stock sale, it said we're going to buy up to 1 billion of ETH. They've updated that now and said they're going to buy 6 billion. So you're correct. 6 billion is their goal, which is about 5% of the supply when they mentioned it. Bitmine has said they want to buy 5 billion. So if you combine those two, that's literally like 10% of the entire ETH supply. So yeah, if these companies start buying 10% of the supply, then yeah, there isn't going to be much ETH left out there on exchanges for purchasing. And he said it again. We also are seeing Bit Digital. I have not seen what they said that they wanted to. I haven't seen a full number from them, but I know that they're looking to vastly increase their number, and you can see that they're up 330% on their holdings this past month as well. So we could see 3 entities, or maybe say 5 entities, holding something like 15% of the entire supply, and that's not even including the ETFs. We're talking about 3 to 5 specific corporate entities that could hold 15% of the Ethereum supply. So if you're not bullish, I don't know what can make you more bullish than that, because these people aren't looking at this cycle. They're looking like MicroStrategy for a much longer term horizon, looking at a long term, probably 5 to 10 year horizon. 10 years is a pretty common number for corporate entities like this to look at from a standpoint of investing. Some do have also a 5 year, but my guess is they're somewhere between the 5 and 10 year plan here. So I don't know, super bullish. And then the Pulse Chain SAC, right? So we have 166,000 ETH. So if that goes to 10,000, that would be $1.6 trillion for Richard Hart to play with. So even if he took half of that, he would still have more than half. He would still have more than what the dollar amount is that the SAC started at. So he could literally take half and still have what he had from a dollar standpoint and invest that back into the ecosystem. I think that he wants a sustainable price structure for the future. So I don't know how much he's going to invest in the short term from the SAC wallet. So I do want people to have sort of like a tempered expectations there. And, for me also, like it's better long-term if we have natural gain and natural price increases. So yes, he can salt and pepper, add a little bit here and there, but I don't expect him to take all that reserve and pump into the ecosystem. But boy, would I like them to.
That would be a hell of a thing.
But the thing is, I actually like Ether's ecosystem. I believe in it. I believe in the decentralized nature of it. So it's like, if you pump it and then it dumps, like what's the usability? Like how many people are going to leave the ecosystem versus if you have a steady incline and a much, easier number to keep up, like that's better for the ecosystem long term.
Very true. Definitely.
All right,
I'm trying to get it to having sustainability over the long term, I think, is very important. And the reason that I say that is because it's how you know which ones last between cycles. If you can have a crazy pump, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stick around for the next cycle as well. It just means you had a crazy pump now. So I'm right there with you, which is that if the goal is to have Pulse Chain continue to be a decentralized kind of like playground, then that means that it's got to do the test of time. At the same time, though, we've seen a lot of aspirations about making 1 million millionaires and trying to have the best chart and the best community and the best product and all that stuff, which it's very good to hear. But at the same time, it's going to come down to proving it. As it stands right now, I think the opportunity is still available. The door is definitely open. You can come in, but I'll tell you what. Do you can you pull up that chart again real quick? I did want to point out one interesting column on it, which is that it seems that people have been making very large purchases very recently. So, for instance, if we go and we look at Bitmine Immersion Technology, over the last 30 days, they've increased their holdings 247%. Meanwhile, SharpLink has gone up 91%. So that's effectively a doubling and then like a 3.5x in their holdings. Additionally, Bit Digital up 300%, and then BTCS Incorporated down there up 282%. We do have a little bit of selling. Thanks, Ethereum Foundation, for that. Really appreciate that. Ethereum name service, again, status down. But, what's this one? Game Square Holdings, 600%. Granted, it's only $50 million, but that size of move tells me that people are really going in hard. It's not just DCAing in on a consistent basis, but it's really going in.
Mm-hmm. And if companies like this are bullish, look what Michael Saylor. Are you good with this?
Can you scroll down real quick? What was the one that we looked at? It was a little lower down. Game Square Holdings. Yes. Thank you. All right, I'm good.
Yeah, Game Square, and then Fluid also increased 150% to almost 10 million. So a lot of these people in like the 2-3K range, but yeah, we don't see a lot of people down a lot, right? Okay, Balancer, you might have made a mistake, down 43% in 30 days. API 3 DAO, 36% down. Status down 21%, and then Ethereum Foundation. But I do love that Ethereum Foundation is no longer the main holder of Ethereum, because I don't know about you, but I don't trust them to hold. Like I trust these other companies. I trust them to sell, just like Ripple Foundation.
There it is. Yes, canonically, they have been known to sell to pay for themselves and their devs and their team and whatever. So I agree with you. It's interesting that they are no longer the number one, but at the same time, though, it just goes to show that people have possibly more of an interest in Ethereum than the Ethereum Foundation.
Yeah, it is funny.
That would make sense.
Speaking of the Ethereum Foundation, I don't want to spin off on another topic for too long. I didn't even mention this before, but I want your opinion on something. On Wednesday, I talked a lot about the Sonic airdrop and how a lot of people, like it was like for 2 days, my entire like crypto Twitter was pretty much, I think we have to update that term, like crypto X. I don't even know what to call it anymore, but it was like just people bashing on the Sonic airdrop. I think that you've been pretty heavily, I don't know about heavily invested, but I think you've been pretty high on Sonic. I've been less high.
I've been involved.
What's that?
I've been involved for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I sold most of mine when it had that big pump before the migration to Sonic. I still have some, but not enough that I care. I care more because I know a lot of people that are heavily invested, and so I want it to do well. And
absolutely,
Phantom was my first DeFi protocol to get me like my feet wet in DeFi. But man, ever since I read the white paper for Sonic, and ever since now, every step of the way, this seems to be like, I don't want to say issues, but they're pissing a lot of people off. It kind of feels like a money grab and a VC type thing. I just want to get your current feeling and consensus on this whole thing.
So I'm going to have a slightly different opinion on you than this one. I think that the project is doing very well. and that one of the common consensuses that I've heard is that Sonic kind of is what Pulse Chain wishes it was, from being really the DeFi playground. There are a handful of very good decentralized exchanges over there that have been doing very well. Shadow is one of the ones that I really like the most. I think is doing really good stuff. As far as the airdrop goes, yes, there was a lot of negativity on Twitter talking about the airdrop. People saying like, I staked a ton of Ethereum over here for a while, and I only got like a couple $1,000 as a result of it after staking like over $1 million. Does that suck from the airdrop perspective? Yes, but at the same time though, you got to take it with a grain of salt, which is that like you're chasing airdrops. The more that you print in airdrops, the more you dilute the token itself. You can even go and look at the charts, which is that when the airdrop came out, you can see that people immediately just sold off the token effectively. So I'll pull it up here real quick. Yeah. So right here, these 3 red candles, that was the beginning of the airdrop. That is when people really started fudding it on Twitter and saying all that stuff. But one of the issues with that airdrop is that people were racking up a ridiculous amount of points for the airdrop, like in the billions pretty much. And then it didn't translate into like 1-for-1 tokens or dollars even. And one of the reasons for that is that people figured out how to loop kind of the reward system, which is that they were pretty much like 5xing or even 10xing the amount that they were actually participating, and they were hoping to get paid for it. But ultimately the people that were running Sonic caught on to that, and they were like, oh yeah, nope, people have been gaming the system. This is not actually the organic growth that we were trying to track. This is inorganic manipulation of the point system itself. So they've been under review, and that's why a lot of people have not been getting the amount that they've been hoping for. But at the same time, though, they're actually doing a second airdrop here coming up soon, and they're doing more this time as a focus on interacting with DeFi products as opposed to just buying and holding tokens on the chain. So yes, are a lot of people pissed off? Yes. Does it seem like a bit of a blunder if you listen to crypto Twitter? Yes. At the same time, though, these are the people that are complaining. They are the dumpers and the jeeters. These are not the people that were really trying to use the system because they believe in it. As far as the actual ecosystem itself goes, I still like it a lot. In my opinion, it is the leader in blockchains that have the closest to near instant transactions. If you go and try to do interactions like on the Shadow Exchange, for example, when you click on your MetaMask and you say complete transaction, you get a response and a confirmation in literally like 1 second or less. It is ridiculous. So as far as that goes, I still have very high hopes for the ecosystem. In fact, even Shadow itself, a little bit of a dump here at the same time. But overall, I think it's fine. If you're interested in it, this is a very, very good accumulation range in my personal opinion. It's sitting down here at like 33 cents. We had the wick low down to 20 cents. I don't think we're going to get that anytime soon. But if you look previously, about $1, according to this deck screener chart, when we had the actual copy over from Phantom to Sonic, the Phantom price was about $1.43. So that right there, if you believe it's going to regain all-time highs or even surpass it, then that pretty much is just like an easy 5x right there. So, I mean, if you want to complain about it, that's fine. But also at the same time, I understand, yes, this is an L1 on the lower side of things. This is a very nerdy, tech-focused chain. I love the fact that they found a way to compress all of the blockchain data into 1/8 of its original size. That allows for faster throughput, faster transaction speeds, and more optimal storage devices so more people can theoretically run nodes and validators. Yes, I am here for the nerdy stuff. I understand that is not everybody. But at the same time, though, I still think it's a good thing. And by the way, I talked about it on the RH Max channel when we did the stream last week, which is that, please, for the love of God, do not click on websites just because you went on X and you typed in #Sonic airdrop and it says, oh, I can go claim my tokens here. The first thing it's going to do is ask you to connect your MetaMask. Never connect your MetaMask to a website unless you trust it. Dear God, you got to trust it. You got to verify it. You got to check it. Don't just believe some random person on Twitter that's like, oh, my post has 1 million impressions, therefore you could totally trust it, right? No.
Yeah, look, I still think it's going to do well. I'm just, personally, I don't like that 6 or 7 of the members of the Sonic Foundation were in the top 10 for airdrops. Like, I don't like that you're airdropping tokens to yourself instead of your community. I also don't like that. That is a very fair critique. I also don't like that the people that were doing that minted the NFTs in the Sonic shards like years ago, got nothing when they were kind of promised something. And then third, I'll just say, and this is the end of it because I don't want to keep going because I actually don't want to FUD it. I do think Sonic's going to do well, and I want it to, but I also want to be honest when I see things that I feel like were somewhat unfair. It sounded to me like originally like people that were using like doing gaming on Sonic were also going to get an airdrop, which didn't seem to be the case either. So I don't want to say that they said things and then didn't follow through. Like you said, there was some people trying to game the system, and maybe they had to, pivot a little bit from what they had originally said 2 years ago. Which again, I even said on Wednesday, like they also were locking up the airdrop, right? It's not you don't get all your airdrop at once, which is good. That's actually good because you don't want them to dump all the tokens. Because what did you just say happened when they got the tokens? People dump them. That's what happens. So you want to spread out your airdrop over a year or however long you're going to do it. But I think there is some valid critiques in valid problems that people had. And my biggest one is like when you airdrop to yourself and you're already like unlocking tokens for marketing and for other things like a foundation that I don't appreciate. Granted, they're going to burn whatever they don't use, but who knows if they're going to use them or not. Anyway, I just was curious what your thought was because I know, Will doesn't use Sonic and I've used it. It is beautiful. Like I miss Phantom because that was the most beautiful user interface I have ever seen. Yeah, and this one feels a little more VCE to me. It's not as like, fun and cute. Anyway, I was just thanks for your thoughts. I was curious.
Hey, fair enough. I will say Agent J is coming in here saying, as someone who plays in both Solana and Solana, Solana is just as fast with the confirmations. There you go.
I was thinking the same thing. I literally just did. In fact, I did a send transaction from one wallet, one of my Solana wallets to another wallet. And bro, I literally, by the time I got logged into my other wallet, the funds were there. It was like seconds. It was so fast.
All right, fair enough. I'm not a huge Solana guy personally, so I'm glad to hear that other blockchains are getting stuff going faster.
What's the issue with Solana? It's fast, but I don't trust its security.
But it's unreliable.
Correct. Yeah. Anyway, we weren't planning to talk about Sonic. That was just an impromptu question for Zenith.
Very nice, very nice. Tell you what, I do want to take a quick second to shout out the chat here. We got a lot of folks stacking up here. Mr. Moonpill Rational Optics. At the beginning, he was saying after 45 years, Crazy Train is still a heavy-hitting song.
It is.
Agreed. That opening riff, there's few things like it. It is a good one. And we also shouted out Crypto Boogie. He said, "Did someone say a boogie?" Yes. By the way, I believe our good friend is streaming right now. Let's see what he's up to.
This is probably one of the best fragrances I've ever smelled.
Oh, we're talking about colognes over on the Boogie channel.
Long lasting.
Oh, come on.
Fragrance, bro. Not in Wolf of Wall Street. I think it's American Psycho, dude. This shit smells fucking amazing, bro. Amazing fucking fragrance. Again, it's got that little magnetic cap, bro. One of my favorite fragrances out there. Highly recommend it, monkeys. That pretty much covers it. Make sure you monkeys like this video, subscribe to the channel, and like this video, man. And I will catch you, monkeys, on the flip side.
There you go. Just caught the tail end of it, but always good to see our buddies, and we want to shout out what we can. By the way, speaking of our buddies that we like shouting out, Dr. H, the crypto practice, coming in here. Oh, you got a fragrance of the evening too? What we got?
So this is one of my new favorites currently. I've always been a fan of Yves Saint Laurent, but this one specifically is really, really good. I don't think you can see the color. It's blue. But it is really, really, really nice. And I will say that I've got a lot of compliments in this one.
Fair enough. Glad to hear it. I'm not a huge fragrance guy myself. I have a bottle of the Adidas cologne that I wear somewhat regularly. So it's always fun to torture Boogie slightly.
I got a little collection. Nothing huge. I got like maybe 5 or 8, something like that. But
hey, fair enough. Fair enough. Alrighty, back to the chats. Dr. H said, "Hey, D-Gens, good to see you. You fuckers. Good to see you too, sir. It's been a hot minute, but always a pleasure seeing you." Speaking of good friends, we got Moondog coming in saying, "Love and light, D-Gens. Good to see you, my man." He's been hanging out with us a lot on the book clubs, adding a lot of really good input. So love having him over there on beautiful Friday nights. So always a pleasure. And another very, very good friend of ours. And by the way, statistically verified, probably the #1 most influential person on crypto Twitter for the Pulse Chain side of the house. That's Tam Tam. She says, "Hello, my lovelies. Good to see you as always.
I have to give a shout out to Tam Tam because Richard Hart Max was talking about Hex Week, and that's coming up next month. And Tam Tam, she tagged me, make sure that I sign up for the Hex. So I appreciated that. That was made me feel good, and I appreciate her looking out for us.
She always does, and we always appreciate it. And
I hope that I can stream. So the goal, Tam Tam, is for me to join the Hex Week, but I'm also moving that week. So it's like tentative. I told Richard Hart Max that I will try to participate in a panel or a debate. Maybe we'll do a longer Hex EHEX debate. Like I would love to do a longer one of those because I got a lot of ammunition. But as long as the move doesn't delay me too much, I should be able to get on later that week. That's the hope.
There you go. By the way, folks, Hex Week being held by RH Max over on his channel. It's going to be August 18th through the 22nd. We're looking at 5 days of 3 to 6 hours and over 9 speakers every day. If you're interested in being a speaker, you can apply by just going over to the little form here, and you can apply to be on the panel yourself, or you can just watch and hang out and share it. And that is totally A-okay as well. Alrighty, we did have a question from Fox Mulder earlier. Sorry, we didn't get to you sooner. We were talking about Pulse Chain, but he's saying Binance listing soon.
And this is in regards to Pulse Chain. He's asking, is Pulse Chain going to get a listing soon? Now, I don't know if you have the Liberty swap X up, but I could bring it up if you want. They've been like eerily hinting at Binance for like 5 days. So there's this. Did you see that by chance? They keep posting all these things with like 1 day, 5 days. In regards to, and then there was like the Statue of Liberty with like a Binance logo, and I think it was five hours ago. I see it, and there's now 3. So I don't know exactly what this means, but people have been speculating. If you go down, that one right there. If you go, like, they've been posting memes like this with a Binance logo, like a specific amount of fingers that might be a countdown, and there's been a lot of these. So people have been wondering, hey, is this a note that Binance is going to be listing Pulse Chain? I don't know. I feel like they're trolling a little bit. They're trying to get views. I don't know if they know anything that we don't. I would love. I've been saying for a while, like a lot of people in the ecosystem have, like, Binance would be the perfect first place for us to get listed, because CZ also had issues with the SEC unfairly. And look, I know he's not the CEO anymore, but there are some connections here, right, between Pulse Chain and Binance. And I don't know. Do you think that we could see a Binance listing?
It's definitely in the realm of possibility. Is it at the top of the priority list for Binance? And are you probably not? But at the same time, though, if they can make money on it, they have an incentive to do so. So,
and think about it this, Zenith. This is what I've been thinking about this week. If you were going to list Pulse Chain, when would be the best time to do so? It would be 2 more weeks. Yes, exactly. It would be right before someone does a massive marketing campaign to try to onboard a lot of people.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Now, I don't know. Look, I'm never going to get my hopes up on anything like this. It's fun to speculate, but to me, it's not important. What's important is the chain working, getting adoption, getting out the people that don't believe, which we've been doing for about, a year and a half now. So we've certainly got a lot of unbelievers out. And in the one that we read earlier from Richard Hart, did that one say all the non-believers are out?
I don't think it said that. But a lot of his talking points usually are about shaking out weak hands, shaking out non-believers, that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, the weak hands shaken out violently. Dry powder ready to explode, the weak hands shaken out violently. So he's saying the weak hands are already out. Well, the majority of them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I would largely believe that they are.
I mean, how many years can you sell down the price for, right?
True, it's true.
Anyway,
all right, You're good. You're good. Let's finish off our chats. We have Pot of Gold showing up saying some interesting takes. By the way, sir, if you have any questions or you want to disagree with us on stuff, please throw it in the chat. We're more than happy to talk about it and debate stuff, or even just casually talk about it in a friendly conversation. That's what we're here to do.
I had some chicken and taters and a pint of Guinness for lunch today.
Very nice. Very nice. Yes, the old leprechaun profile picture there as well. Excellent. Alrighty, good sir. I think it's about time that we actually talk about allegedly what we proposed was the title of this one. So coming to us from the Associated Press, there's some tariff news. The US and EU deal sets a 15% tariff on most goods and averts the threat of a trade war with global shock. We go down into the article. We're setting a 15% tariff on most goods to start off. At least for now, far higher imports on both sides that might have sent shockwaves through the economies around the globe. Sweeping announcement came after President Donald Trump and the EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen met briefly at the golf course in Scotland. God, I wish I could play that course. The private sit-down accumulated with months of bargaining, with the White House's deadline on Friday nearly imposing punishing tariffs on the EU's 27 member countries. It was a very interesting negotiation. I think it's going to be great for both parties, Trump said. The agreement, he said, was a good deal for everybody, a giant deal with lots of countries.
I've been told that this is the best deal the United States and the EU have ever had together. People have said it, not me. People have said it.
There you go. Trump said the EU had agreed to buy $750 billion worth of U.S. energy and invest $600 billion more than it already is in the United States, as well as a major military equipment purchase. He said tariffs for automobiles and everything else would be straight across a tariff of 15% and have the opening up of all other European countries. Again, the EU correspondent said 15% tariffs across the board, all inclusive. That indeed, basically, the European market is open.
Which is phenomenal for the record. Also, on my day job, we import and distribute European products, so it's kind of big for us.
There you go. And then we do have one more. So coming to us from The Guardian, the EU fails to reduce the 50% steel tariff in outline trade deal with the United States. What date do we have? Anyways, the point of this one is saying that, yes, 15% across the board, but there may be some exceptions, and it looks like the 50% steel tariff is one of them. The latest proposal for a trade agreement between the EU and U.S. does not include a removal or reduction of the punitive 50% tariff Donald Trump imposed on steel imports. It is a big setback for the industry in the EU, which last month warned it faced being wiped out by the 50% rate, high energy cost, and cheap Chinese competition. On Thursday, Trump confirmed the range of tariffs he would be imposing on countries yet to sign the deal. Will have a straight, simple tariff on anywhere between 15 and 50%. The president said at an AI summit in Washington. One Brussels diplomat confirmed the new outline deal to avert a trade war with the U.S. briefed out to the member states on Wednesday included a 15% tariff on a range of goods with notable exceptions such as steel, which remains at 50.
Would that be aluminum as well? Probably, right? Aluminum and steel.
I don't know. Aluminum is different, but I would not be surprised if it also got caught up with the workable metals kind of stuff.
They both were 50%, and I know that because, again, so I work in exterior facades, so exterior building cladding. So we do sustainable building design. Essentially, if you're familiar with what a rain screen cladding is, most people probably aren't. Some people call it a facade. But essentially, you have metal components that hold panels off the building, so you can put insulation on the exterior of your building and make your building much more energy efficient. And also, it allows moisture to drain out, so you never have to really update your building. Like, it's very, very low maintenance and long-term sustainable. So a lot of those parts are aluminum. Most of them are aluminum, and then they come from Europe, the majority of them. Now, my company makes them all in the United States, so that's great. But we still actually source some things in Europe. And so, like, the aluminum and steel was a big question for me. Like, I'll be meeting tomorrow with my boss, and they're like, okay, we still don't quite know exactly where the steel and aluminum stands. But my guess was it was going to stay at 50, and everything else is 15. So we'll see. Yeah, there you go. So, inner layer, which is like your exterior sheathing. Then you have some sort of clip rail system. Exterior insulation, it allows for airflow. So what happens is it tries to create pressure, equal pressure on both the front side and the back side of the panel. So you actually get constant airflow behind the panel. So any moisture that gets back there, because it is an open joint system, dries out. And so you literally never have to worry about like regrouting. You never have to worry about updating your repointing your brick or anything to that extent. It's a self-sustaining long-term solution for cladding. So literally you could have 50 or 100-year builds and never have to update or do much maintenance of your cladding other than maybe clean it, or someone hits it with something, fix a panel or something. But so it's very long-term, it's very sustainable, and also it reduces your heating and cooling costs in your building by 30 to 60%, depending on what your traditional construction method was. Sorry.
You're good. Very nice. I dig it. That's cool stuff. All right,
I'm a nerd in a lot of different areas in my life.
Aren't we all? Anyways, let's bring it back. So why are we talking about the EU and US trade deal? Well, because we are trying to figure out the result of this. If you remember, this giant dip was caused by the uncertainty surrounding tariffs and the negotiations that would be going on into the future. So the fact that the United States and the EU is actually hammering out a deal, that is a very good indicator that we are moving towards a more stable business environment. And when you have stable business environments, it allows the markets to make better decisions because they have more long-term certainty. And when you have that, you can start getting into the more sustainable growth areas. And as a result, that sometimes allows people to go into more risk on assets when it comes to investing. So, Brendan, what do you think is a good example that is a risk on asset that traditional finance has had an interest in lately?
Sure, that would be Ethereum, the number one altcoin in the world. And usually one that, look, even if it's not doing the best, when ETH starts doing well, that's when the overall alt market starts doing well. So yes, Solana has had its day in the sun. Yes, XRP has had its day in the sun. Yes, Cardano had a pretty good pump there. But did that trigger the overall alt market moving up? No, it did not. It's waiting for the king, and that is Ethereum. So risk on assets like Ethereum and other altcoins related to it would potentially do very well because of this.
There you go.
Right?
I mean,
there's less uncertainty. Less uncertainty is very important for the market. And again, we haven't even had rate cuts yet. Jerome's going to tell us no rate cut on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it is.
It's true. Well, if he doesn't say rate cuts on Wednesday, there's a decent chance that he might be applying for jobs.
You think he's going to give us a rate cut?
No, I do not.
But but there has been some open dissent from other people in the Fed in regards to saying that they think that there should be a cut. So I don't know if that's a political movement on their end. I've been on the record saying I do think it's time to be a cut. You want to be proactive with cuts, because if you wait too long, then it spooks the market if you start cutting because the market's not doing well. So with rate cuts, you actually should be proactive slowly. And currently we're not taking the proactive approach. Now, does the EU tariff deal with the United States, and by the way, the United States deal with Japan, remove the uncertainty that has kept Fed Chair Jerome Powell from cutting rates? It should. I mean, this was what he's talking about, being the most uncertainty in the market. If that's off the table, what else does he have to lean on other than, hey, economy doing well?
That's true. It's very important to note that when we had the revisions of their projections earlier in the year from the Fed, what they were talking about, they cited an increase in inflation risk. And the thing that they cited for it was the uncertainty with all the trade deals and the tariff negotiations going on. So again, it's one more data point that shows things are starting to normalize. The deals are being hammered out. It looks like we're getting back to that stable business environment, which, if they hold true to their word, then that means that if we see another forecast come out, then the risk of inflation should be down at least a little bit. It's not going to reduce the risk entirely, but it is a data point that should point towards the downward area when it comes to that inflationary risk. And again, that is one of the things that they've been citing for not doing the rate cuts. We're going to keep harping on it. We finished off 2024 with them saying we expect 4 rate cuts this year. So far, we've gotten 0.
Sad days. So if I were to hold a gun to your head, which I would never do because that's mean, how many rate cuts do you think we could see by the end of the year? Do you think we could see 2?
Yeah, I think 2 is in the realm of 2 seems like a very middle of the road bet for me, which is that they've been looking to decrease the rate. If you look at all their projections, whether they're 2024 projections or even the most recent projections, they still are anticipating that the interest rates will be probably around 3.75 by the end of the year, and they want it to be somewhere around 3% by the end of next year as well. So that's what leads me to two rate cuts. And if you do a quarter point each time, that seems like a very steady, sustainable version of it. And again, it comes back to the data as well, which is that if the data shows that the market is absorbing and actually reacting well to the rate cuts, then it means that they're in the correct direction and they're going towards their famous R star, or the theoretical interest rate that the market should be at. I think right now, yes, we have seen the rates been a little bit high as a result of just looking at the amount of homes being purchased, because people are just not willing to get in at the current rates. So again, first 6 months of the year, lowest number of homes being bought and sold pretty much in the last, since 2008, I want to say it was.
Yes, sir. I might
Exactly.
might be trying to sell a house right now. I've been talking to a lot of real estate agents, and they've said the least amount of house sales since 2008. In fact, less house sales this year than 2008 when we had a housing market crash. And look, it is affecting the housing market, and I think that's really a struggle. Like the housing market's important for regular everyday people. So it is something I think that if you want people to feel good, you need to reduce rates so that they have the ability to buy houses. Like to struggle out there right now. And I do think that the housing market, if it was better, our economy would be even that's hard to say, it would be looking even better. But that is the case. And that is hurting the everyday average American. And it's also not allowing companies and institutions to borrow as much money because it's just too much of a cost to do so. The only way that you can buy a house currently at a lower rate is through these home manufacturers like Pulte and Lennar, who actually are also their own banks. So they build a lot of houses, and then because you're buying their house and you're wrapping a loan in from them as well, they're allowed to give you a much lower price. But for the everyday house that's been on the market or already been sold, that's not an option. So those are the only ones that are really moving are houses that are new and people are getting good rates on because they're able to wrap that house sale and the loan in together.
It's true. The reason that I know we sound like a bit of a broken record because we always end up coming back to the rate cuts idea and stuff going on with that. They're important macroeconomic events that can affect all the charts, S&P 500 and the crypto charts. So yes, the next 2 days are a important place to be looking at the crypto charts to see which direction the market goes as a result of it. Also, there is the third option, which is instead of up or down, it could also just go sideways. That is an option as well. But what we're talking about is that, again, it goes back to the idea that we're trying to be in a stable business environment and a stable place where investors can make the best decisions possible. And if you're a crypto investor, that's no different. We've seen that traditional finance has largely gotten in on this cycle, and they're continuing to do so now more than ever. So with that, if you can continue to either buoy or support the business environment, then odds are there might even be more money coming into the crypto space. As far as the market overall goes, yeah, that's also a big indicator for the retail investors as well, which is that if you're worried about a lot of the pressures, chances are you're not trying to throw more money into crypto. You're just trying to pay off the credit card bill and stay afloat at the current time. So again, you don't have to be the Wall Street investors to look for that stable business environment. But again, if you can get inflation down to a relatively level area and the unemployment rates don't spike up, then that means that we're going to be approaching that area where people can start budgeting for these things and retail can really actually kind of get cranking a little bit more when it comes to investing in the space.
Yeah, it's a good point. And you know what we haven't really harped on or talked about a lot, and I don't think a lot of people are talking about it enough, is China really hasn't entered the market yet, right? I did watch something this week, and the video is not really playable. It's not good because it's heavy accent, kind of hard to understand. But it was someone from China and an economic advisor saying that the Chinese government is paying very close attention to what the United States is doing with their crypto legislation and what they're doing to accumulate said crypto. So that to me was, that's interesting. If the Chinese government is actually watching what the United States is doing from a crypto regulation standpoint and stablecoin standpoint, over, like, we could imagine China just like, okay, we're all in. Like that's another thing that we talked about when we talked about the perfect storm theory, is like China coming into the market. We've seen Hong Kong come into the market a bit. We still have yet to really see China embrace crypto and come into the market. So there is this other side of it where there's this huge potential amount of money that hasn't even been opened up to the market yet. But if they're watching closely and they're worried that the United States is surpassing them in an area of technology, they need to catch up. Man, that could be a bullish scenario moving into, which would maybe push us into that 2026 Q1, right? Like, we haven't even seen, and I personally expected China to already have opened up a bit more. I'm sure they're opening up a little bit behind the scenes, like they have to be, right? They're probably buying behind the scenes that we don't know, but there's no doubt that it isn't as much as it could be. Like, they're not outwardly saying, hey, this is important. And so when does China really enter the market, and does that make a big difference? It could.
I think the reasoning for China getting involved is that if Bitcoin becomes a new thing to compete over, that is something that should kind of spike their interest, which is that they don't want to get left behind on something and they want to stay relevant on the world stage. If the nation states start accumulating Bitcoin, which looks like they're doing, granted, it's only been some smaller countries up to this point, but the US is getting in the game. Some of the other countries are also starting to get in the game as well. I will say it is still the classic blunder that I see posted on X like pretty much every week, which is if you remember back in the summer of 2024, when Germany sold 50,000 Bitcoin that they seized just because it was procedural. They're like, yeah, that would be worth multi-billion dollars today. It's like, way to go, guys. Way to go.
Yep.
But yeah. If China gets in on actually trying to build the strategic reserve for themselves, then again, it's just more money. And if you thought TradFi was big, well, nation states are somehow even bigger, especially when it's one of the largest countries in the world and has a government that's more than willing to do things by force, if you will. So,
Aleman, Germany, you're not feeling very good, are you there, buddy? But yeah, so I do think that people are kind of not paying attention as much to China as we were a year ago, thinking that they were going to enter the market sooner. So I just want people to not forget that we have another huge economy that could continue to put, and this is what I'm saying, like, we haven't even seen all of the bullish scenarios play out yet, which is why Bitcoin could get to that 200,000 range, right? Like, China fully opens and says, hey, we're going after this. And then Russia says, hey, we're going after this. Like, I'm sorry, that it's just a race at that point. Another thing that I have been considering is not selling any Bitcoin at the end of this cycle, only selling my altcoins. And because it might be hard to get back. I really don't know what that's going to look like. And I don't have enough Bitcoin that selling it will make a life-changing difference. I have Bitcoin, but I have altcoins that are going to be much more life-changing for me. So for me, I'm starting to think like, okay, I might not actually sell my Bitcoin at all. That might just be like my forever Bitcoin, because I have all my Bitcoins in cold storage. Have been there for a long time. Same with most of my ETH. And so those things that are in cold storage, I may or may not touch. I may not touch any of that. So we'll see. Now, when I say cold storage, I mean like those are wallets that aren't connected to any hot wallets. So like just untouched, just boom there. So we'll see. I'm kind of changing my thought process a little bit. Before I'd be like, okay, I'm going to sell everything or 90%. Now I'm thinking like, oof, Bitcoin is becoming rare and I might not want to sell it.
I think that idea makes sense for sure. And I think that more and more people are waking up to that idea and that concept. One of the reasons that I think that might be a decent strategy is, one, you understand that Bitcoin will go down at some point, but you're okay with that because you've already secured the Bitcoin and you believe it's going to continue to go up in the future. Mm-hmm. The reason that might be a safer proposition than trying to sell market top and rebuy in at the bottom is because if we do kind of do that thing that our good buddy Axis Alive talks about, which is that Bitcoin kind of transitions away from 4-year cycle and more towards that gold chart, which is just purely up and to the right, it means that will you have corrections towards the downside? Yes. Will the 4-year cycle exist in some degree, but a much, much more muted effect? Also, yes. What that could theoretically do is that if you have a much more muted or less of a bear market, it's going to be harder for the indicators to identify that market bottom. So if you're someone like me who tries to use the indicators a lot, that might screw up some of those components. And instead of finding the market bottom, you might miss it. Granted, I would argue there's still a pretty good chance that you're going to be able to identify that the market bottom was missed and there's still an entry point that is lower than the previous cycle top. I would argue, yes, that's entirely possible. But from risk mitigation standpoint, if you only care about stacking sats, holding on to that Bitcoin, then not selling into market top, it does make sense to me. But at the same time, though, I think more and more people are waking up to this idea. By the way, I do have something for you. I wasn't planning on playing it on this show, but I do have something here for you. So coming to us from Kyle Chasse.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Did I hear super cycle? The 4-year cycle is dead and adoption killed it. Matt Hugan says we're going higher in 2026. Early profit takers will be left behind. So let's go ahead and listen.
When ETF launched.
4-year cycle, is it still intact?
Oh, yeah. So I think I'm somebody that thinks it will be intact, but it's going to be muted. I mean, if you look at it, I think those loops are kind of getting smaller. Like if you think about it like a roller coaster that's going down, I just think the amplitude isn't going to be as much. Like I don't know if we'll see like an 80% pullback. Could we see 50? Maybe something along those lines. I don't know. I won't pretend to be like a fortune teller, but I just think like as these institutions come in, more stable money, stable backing, forced buyers in a way with these treasury companies and different things. I think the amplitude of those cycles is going to go down, and it won't be as like strict like on the money where everything collapses in November or December of like whatever year is coming up. So yeah, I don't think it's completely done, just because human nature, liquidity cycles, you name it. But I just think it's getting more and more mature. And these people are talking about advisors, institutions, if they're going for like a 3, 4, 5% allocation, if all of a sudden it jumps up to 10% of their portfolio and they're not ready to do that, they're going to sell as it goes up. But the inverse is true too. If it goes from 5% to 2% or 2.5%, they're going to rebalance and end up buying. So I think that possibly will, as vol is coming down, part of the vol coming down is like the upside is going to be a little bit more capped, but I think also the downside should be a little more capped. So yeah, I think it's likely that's still going to go, but less amplitude.
I love it. Well, James and I agree on one thing and disagree on the other. So maybe we'll put a sushi dinner bet on whether the price goes up or down in 2026. I agree that flows are going to accelerate for all the reasons that James said. These national account platforms are just now unlocking. For what it's worth, the due diligence they do is absolutely extraordinary. The most recent package we filled out was 650 pages long and involved multiple on-site visits from their teams. They really do this at a serious level. That's why it takes a long time. The other fact I would add, sad fact for me, but a fun fact for you, is the average Bitwise client allocates after 8 meetings. And if they started doing quarterly meetings when the Bitcoin ETF launched, they finish that run at the end of this year and start allocating in 2026. These people just move slower than crypto retail is used to. And so I think we'll set a new record for flows this year. I think we'll set a new record for flows next year, and so on. On the 4-year cycle, I bet 2026 is an up year. My thesis is that the factors that have driven the 4-year cycle, there are really 3 that people point to. One is the Bitcoin halving, one is interest rates, and one is blowups. Some combination of these things, interest rates and macro conditions. But the halving is half as important every 4 years, just statistically. Interest rates are as liable to go down as they are to go up. They went up aggressively in 2022 and up in 2018. And I think the risk of blowups is dramatically lower now that we have ETFs and regulation. So I think a lot of those negative forces have been tamped down. And at the same time, we have these flows in institutional purchases. So my money says 2026 is a pretty good year. Could be volatile. There could be pullbacks, of course. But I think we're going to go up in 2026 and break the 4-year cycle.
4 years.
There you go. People saying it. They're starting to say it. 4-year cycle's dead.
Careful. Be careful. I also want to just preach, be careful. Because when people start to get excited, they start to get very excited, and oftentimes they miss the reality of the situation. So as euphoria hits, it's very easy to take this point of view. Now, I'll say he's coming from a point of not even euphoria yet, and he is saying this. So I think that he's being honest, and I think that he's doing it without being in a euphoric state. That doesn't mean that you don't need to be careful. And so very interesting. He's not the first person. Like you said, Access Alive was one of the first people I've heard say.
He was talking about that over a year ago.
Yeah, he's been saying for a long time. And, he's very smart. He knows markets really well.
He also has a good TradFi background too when it comes to investment trading. So
he does. Yep. So we'll see. The 4-year cycle is never going to be dead, but I do understand that, like, if you're having it, he says it's lessening. actually, if you think about it, maybe it's increasing because yes, you're cutting it by less Bitcoin, but if you go from 1 Bitcoin to a half a Bitcoin, well, you need 2x that price to make it worthwhile. So it's like, every time there's still a 2x factor, essentially, from a mining standpoint, that is almost necessary for it to make money. I don't know.
Yeah, the main things that I get from that video and why I think it's important to play is one, it's people actually talking about the 4-year cycle breaking. Our second gentleman that we listened to there, that's what he was talking about in particular. Saying that 2026 is going to be an up year, that is an aggressive prediction. Wild. And the reason that I say that is because traditionally the 4-year cycle plays out. And 2025 should be our top year, and 2026, the end of it, should be the bear market low. So to say that it's going to be an up year is a hell of a prediction, in my personal opinion. Also, the other point from the video that I want to talk about is the first gentleman that we listened to. He made a lot of the points that you just made when you're talking about holding a Bitcoin to the market top and not selling, because even he's talking about it. As the asset matures, you're going to see less volatility. Less volatility means less pumps towards the upside, but it also means less dumps to the downside. And that's partly what I was referencing when I was saying that if you have fewer dumps to the downside, it might throw off some of those indicators that have been finely tuned for the existing crypto cycles of the past. If it's a new cycle, those indicators might not work, and it means that risk mitigation strategy might be more effective.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I'm also thinking that there is a possibility that Bitcoin doesn't drop as much as it has in previous bear markets, and Ethereum as well. So you could see this tiered approach. Okay, Bitcoin drops the least, Ethereum drops the second least, and then the rest of the altcoin market drops a ton. So you could see this sort of layered approach to how the market works, again, because Ethereum's getting real long-term institutional and corporate adoption. So it's a little different right now than the other altcoins, even Solana and XRP. And by the way, the Grayscale ETF I mentioned on Wednesday that got approved for these other altcoins was held. So, okay, you're approved, but you can't actually use it until we say, which means that they could revoke that altogether. And so that's why we saw a dip earlier this week in XRP, in Doge, in Cardano, I think there were like 5 or 6 in that ETF package. So the only clarity that we have is Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I do think that those potentially dip less in the bear market. Ethereum probably going to dip more than Bitcoin because, again, it's an altcoin, and then the rest of the altcoins dip more than everything. So that's kind of my current thesis.
I like it. The other point I want to ask you about real quick is our second gentleman, the 4-year cycle is dead guy. He was saying that we're expecting to see more inflows throughout 2025 and in 2026. The reason he said that is he cited the fact that previously people were looking to get into it and their schedules, just because they're traditional finance, are very delayed, meaning that as it stands right now, existing strategies are talking about still having inflows almost halfway through 2026. Do you think he's onto something there?
I mean, he could be, but if I was a financial advisor and I see Bitcoin at the price that it's at, would I want to tell my people that are investing with me, hey, this is the time to buy Bitcoin? I don't know. Like, people might just want to have Bitcoin because they're having a long-term. Again, remember, traditional finance has a longer-term horizon. They're looking at, that 5-year, 10-year cycle. Like, almost any investor that you talk to, they're going to be looking at a 5-year, and even more of them are going to be looking at a 10-year. So if they're looking at that, then it doesn't really matter when you buy Bitcoin and Ethereum, because they're saying, hey, buy now and hold for 10 years, and you're gonna do really well. So yes, we could see some people buy because of that, but I have a hard time thinking that it's going to be a net positive in 2026 moving into Q2, 3, 4. There are some, like I said earlier, there are some things that are potentially still there that could blow this up into a serious super cycle, but none of the stuff is on the table yet. So until that happens, I'm gonna take the more conservative approach and say no. I think he's probably wrong, but I do like that there's even consideration. You know why? Because that means more people are going to be holding and less people are going to be selling, so we can sell when it's important.
That's true. I do want to bring up the most important graph or chart in all of investing, which is the old psychology of a market cycle.
Yeah.
So you raised a good question there, which is that in early 2026, do you think the financial advisors want to be telling people to be purchasing an asset, which might be on the way down towards this anxiety, denial, panic, capitulation, or anger level? Even as a financial advisor, if you get down to that anger level and people are like, "You told me to buy," do you think that's going to be a prospect for your career?
No, they're going to be losing customers hand over fist.
Bingo, exactly.
They just want that 10% growth every year. But I do think that some people are waking up to fiat versus Bitcoin. And so I even think that there are some boomers and people that are going to want to have some just to have some because they think it's a safe play, even if it goes down in the short term. But it's not going to be good for the financial advisors that tell people to buy something that's just going to go down. So someone, you and I have been in, economics for a long time, or, looking at finance and economics for a long time. If I was a financial advisor, which at one point I wanted to be, I would not be telling them to buy Bitcoin then. No.
All right. Question number 2 about the most important graph in the world. That video we just watched, can you point to the chart and say where you think that video was made?
I would say optimism.
Optimism, really?
Between optimism and belief. Yeah.
I was going to say between belief and thrill. That's what I was going to say.
That's fair.
I think that this is something we talked about back in the early days of the channel, probably even before I was part of the channel, which is that people have been coming off that 2021 cycle saying that it's the super cycle. It's going forever. It's going to be a long time. Guess what? It didn't. It ended up being relatively a normal-ish cycle. Granted, there was that weird double top thing, but at the end of the day, from the time frame, it was still a pretty normal cycle. Now, I think that the video we just watched is starting to make some of those similar claims, which is they're saying that, yeah, we're going to run into 2026. 2026 is going to be an up year. This sounds like a similar song and dance that we did last time around. So why is this one different?
Yeah, so I say optimism and belief because I think from belief to euphoria is a very short time frame.
That's
so
fair.
because I think that belief to euphoria is a short time frame, I think we're probably in that. It's just like it just when you look at a cycle, optimism to belief is a much longer window than belief to euphoria. And so I just like that's the only reason I say that. But certainly belief to thrill is certainly a possibility as well.
Fair enough. Well, either way, I think it's definitely important to try to keep a even head on your shoulders as you go through all these different stages. Because I mentioned it many streams in a row, multiple times this stream. I believe crypto is going to get stupid hot. When I'm talking about getting stupid hot, that's thrill and euphoria. Those are places where I think a lot of people get wrecked. And unfortunately, we have had the, I'm going to call it a pleasure of talking with them, but the misfortune of hearing the sad story, which was I bought the top and held to the bottom. So hopefully we can at least not do it ourselves, and at best try to help a handful of other folks out there not make that mistake as well.
I mean, I started buying Hex at 19 cents. So if anyone out there feels that, I get you. Bought Hex at 19 cents, but I also bought so much Hex under a penny. It's like I'm probably even on my investment. Like something like that is crazy. Like think about it. Like this is what people don't understand. If you buy the top and you buy the bottom, you only need a 2x to make your money even. It's really not a lot of money if you're buying at the lows. It doesn't matter if you buy the top, but as long as you're buying a lot at the lows, then you don't need a large increase to be in profit. You really don't. You don't need many X's to be in profit. And so for me, having bought so much Pulse Chain, Hex, PulseX in like their depression state, I feel like I'm in a really good place. Like I don't need many X's to be in profit. I'm like probably borderline profit currently.
There you go. It works. If the strategy works, no reason to abandon it.
Also, if you still believe in what you invest in, that's important.
That is also very, very important as well. Alrighty, sir. I do have our final screen share of the evening before we go ahead and start working towards a close. By the way, another one of our very good friends, Mr. Crypto Twinkie, he is currently hosting a X Spaces right now. Even Boogie's in there hanging out with BLX. Go hang out, say hi to all those guys after this. But that is what's going on out elsewhere on the tubes. Outside of that, though, Mr. Brendan, where can the folks find you? What do you got going on in the near future?
Yeah, you can find me anonymous_bean on X. Sometime next week, I will be hanging out with Will, maybe later this week. So that will be really cool. Looking forward to seeing our good buddy, and it's been a while since I've seen him, a couple of years, so that'll be nice. Other than that, yeah, find me in the Telegram, find me on X, and man, like today, my wife and I, we finally found a house to rent, and we're moving in like 3 weeks, so that's one thing off the check mark, which is feels really good. We still haven't sold or rented our current house, so hopefully that happens soon. But yeah, we're excited. We're trusting the Lord and not worried. So other than that, yeah, man, a lot of changes coming up soon. But yeah, what you got going on? Book Club 69, baby.
Yeah, Book Club 69 is coming up. But first, Brennan, can you give people the one of these other side of your screen? Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to get involved in the Telegram for the DGen Roundtable, go ahead and scan the QR code that my excellent co-host is pointing at. That is how you can get in there. You can ask us any questions you got, whether it's about the stream, life, crypto stuff, or any of the other various sub-channels we have in there for people that just like hanging out, building community, and chatting. Outside of that, though, yes, we do have Book Club number 69 coming up on this Friday. It is a bunch of ways to hunt squirrels, I believe. I can't remember the name of the book right now, but it should be a fun one. I'm very excited for that one. That is going to be the same time as all of our other streams, which is 8 p.m. Eastern time, as well as our Whiskey Wednesday show coming up 8 p.m. Eastern time as well. Outside of that, we'll see you guys next week again at 8 p.m. Eastern time for another Sunday news show, our flagship show here on the DGen Roundtable, where we try to bring you the best information we possibly can about the markets, news, and everything else going on around the world. Outside of that, though, yes, I am Zenith. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. You can find me personally on Instagram and X at zenithdi. But more importantly than that, I want to thank you all for spending your valuable time with us tonight here on the DGen Roundtable. As Agent J often says, we know that time is your most valuable asset, so we appreciate you investing it right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Zenith, but more importantly, you have been watching the DGen Roundtable. Mr. Producer, that's me, by the way. Go ahead and get that trigger finger ready because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to DGen responsibly.